Alright, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, wa salatu wa salamu ala ashraf al-anbiya'i wal mursaleen nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wa hlul 'uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Once again, MashaAllah. You guys are ready and excited for this one? We got lots of topics to cover. So before we begin and dive into today's topics, there are some clarifications from the previous class that I would like to give. And even before that, that is my contact information, because people generally come up and they ask. So that's my cell phone number and that's my email address. It will go out, and I think Brother Hassan or Brother Walid will actually share these slides along with my contact information. So feel free to text me. I prefer WhatsApp or SMS. It's a quicker way of reaching out to me, but you can also choose to send me an email address, but then don't expect a quick response. All right, so we'll try, alhamdulillah. All right, so a clarification. I spoke about the aura. What are those parts of the body that need to be covered? And I mentioned that for sisters, feet is not part of aura. So their feet can be exposed up to ankles. But what is interesting, and I found this fascinating, when I was going through all the traditional books that actually talk about this, every time they mention the feet is not to be covered, they always add, but you cannot look at it. And I was like, okay, wait a second. Okay, it's not aura, but you're not supposed to look at it. But then I found it so fascinating. These are books that were written 1,000 years ago, 500 years ago, classical age, medieval age. I'm like, that answers the question about selling feet pictures. Because here's the thing, you can come back and be like, okay, no sisters in this room, right? Nobody's got to be listening online, either live right now or in future, but they can come back and be like, oh, Sheikh Sohaib mentioned at McMaster University, or I heard from somebody that feet is not part of aura, so it can be seen, so I can sell feet pictures and make money. It's like, nah, you can't do that. The ruling is that it's impermissible. Why? Because you're not supposed to look at them. You can uncover them, but you can't, guys can't look at them. Secondly, listen, just because we're on this topic, when people sell feet pictures, it is to people who have feet fetish. True? You guys are looking at me like, this is a serious topic, man. People ask these questions. So if you look at somebody with lust or desires, that is impermissible anyways. So the moment they actually talk about that, that's so important that they actually mention that in the books of fiqh. So guys, girls, that answer, anybody asks that question, be like, yeah, Sheikh Sohaib mentioned that, yeah, you can uncover them while praying, or in general, but you can't look at them. Secondly, now this is important because I talk about sajda, when you prostrate and the correct way of making sajda. However, there's one mistake that a lot of people do, and that is they end up lifting their feet off the ground. So I'm going to show you the correct way of doing sajda, and this applies to both brothers and sisters. So if you can all pay attention to that blue solid looking musalla again, inshallah. So those who can't see, maybe you can get up, come towards the bar, inshallah. So I'm going to show you how to properly make sajda. So keep an eye on my feet, inshallah, okay? So you go in sajda, and now when you're getting up, okay, let me do the whole thing, inshallah. So you stand up, and now you're going in sajda. So again, first thing to keep in mind was? Keep your back straight, mashallah. The brothers will pay attention, alhamdulillah. Alright, so you go back straight, go Allahu Akbar. And now look, my toes are actually touching the ground. They're not off the ground, correct? Now, a lot of people that actually do this, when they go in sajda, they actually go like this. It's like, no, that's wrong, because that could actually, if you keep it up for long, your salah can actually break. Right, so you go down like this. Now, what a lot of people also do is, when they're getting up, they lift it, because it's just easier. No, you're supposed to drag it. So look at this. Look at my feet. You say, Allahu Akbar. Right? I'm going to go back now. Keep looking at my feet, okay? Allahu Akbar. You see that? Nice. Turning like this. That's going to guarantee that your feet is not going to be lifted off the ground. Does that make sense now? Is that clear? Okay, perfect. Third clarification. We talked about the rows of brothers and sisters, but what about children? So, if this is the qibla, right, brothers are standing here, sisters are here, children are supposed to be in the middle. Okay? That's for children. That's for males, females, and that's children are in the middle. Okay? They shouldn't be standing with the adults. Why? Because salah for the adults is fard. It's obligatory, correct? Guys, you gotta answer. When I ask you, you gotta answer. I don't have candidates today because I changed my jacket, but still. Remember yesterday? It's just on Monday. It's a surprising came out. Today's not gonna happen. But anyway. Okay. So it is obligatory for males and females. But salah is not obligatory on children. So salah is fard for adults, but it's nafil. It's actually something that's optional, supererogatory for the children. So somebody who's praying fard should not be standing next to somebody who's praying nafil, or vice versa. They should be in the same rak'ah. So now the solution is, either you create a second saf for them, a separate row, or you stand, you make them stand in the corner. I remember, when I was a kid, I went to the masjid, and there's Imam of the masjid, he was like, this kid, you should go right at the back. And they never explained, never gave me the reasoning. I was so upset, I didn't go to the masjid for an entire week. I was like, they don't like me in the masjid. I hope that, somebody like Sheikh Sohaib would come and explain the reasoning. Well, that's the reasoning. All right, does that make sense now? Now, the only exception might be, let me just finish this point, I'll come back to you. The only exception is if it's a very big masjid where you might feel like you will lose your child. It's unsafe. So now that becomes a safety issue. In that case, yes, it's allowed for you to actually have the child with you. Does that make sense? Or, then in that case, you can actually have you with them. Or the second exception is if if all the kids get together, it will become a party club. Then it's like, all right, cool. You can't even hear the imam. Then in that case, you are allowed to. So yes, you had a question?
Yeah, I was just going to ask, is there a difference in opinions on the school of thoughts regarding this?
Sorry, say that again. School of thought? No, there's no difference.
Within the rows of children, do you separate the boys and girls?
You don't have to, but you can if you want to, yeah. Technically, you don't have to.
Instead of a separate row, can we put them in the corner?
Yeah, you can put them in the corner as well. All right, guys. For questions at the end, clarification, if I say something, that should be now. All right, anything else? Yes. Ayatul Sajda. So I mentioned if you recite Ayatul Sajda, you should go straight into prostration to Sajda, right? The only exception is if that's the last ayah that you recite. Okay? So let's say the last verse of Surah Iqra, right? Or the last verse of Surah Najm, where it's the last ayah in Ayatul Sajda. Or you're reciting Salah and you're like, this is the last ayah I want to recite, then in that case you are allowed to make the intention of sajda while going in ruku or sajda. So you have to make a separate sajda. Are you guys with me? Okay? So remember we mentioned, if you recite Ayatul Sajda, you go straight in sajda, but in this case, you can just finish the ayah, go in ruku, and then when you go in sajda, you make the intention of making sajda for the ayah.
And
this suffices.
Only if it's the last ayah.
Only if it's the last ayah, and you don't want to recite another ayah afterwards. Okay? Not only the last ayah of the surah, if it's the last ayah of your recitation, then you're not going to continue. Then in that case, you can do that, inshallah. Okay? And then, Ameen, saying Ameen out loud. Okay? This is the most famous argument with Muslims, right? This is how you enter the fold of Islam, or you become a muftadi', right? This whole innovation battle is saying Ameen out loud. Have you guys all heard this? Alright guys, so let me clarify this issue right now, inshallah. Let's bury this issue. So, saying Ameen out loud or saying Ameen silently, both are correct opinions. Okay? So Imam Abu Hanifa rahmatullah alayhi says it is preferred, there's preference to saying Ameen silently. But it is perfectly permissible to say out loud. And all the other Imams, they say the same thing. They say it's preferred to say out loud, but anybody who says silently, the Ameen will be accepted. So my teacher said something really beautiful. He said saying Ameen out loud is permissible. Saying Ameen silently is permissible. But saying Ameen with the intention of creating fitna is impermissible. What is the example? You go to a masjid and nobody says Ameen in that masjid. And you're like, I want to be the one who follows the sunnah. And as soon as the imam says, غَيْرِ الْمَغْضُوبِ عَلَيْهِمْ وَلَا الضَّالِّينَ, you're the only one that can be heard in the entire masjid and the entire community. Amen! Have you heard that? Guys, we've all been there, right? That's saying with fitna, all right? Or the other way, where everybody says Ameen out loud, and you're like, I want to prove to these guys that I follow the sunnah, I'm not going to say it. And if I become the imam, I will make sure that I'm extra silent. Now you're doing it with what? With the intention of fitna. That is impermissible. Does that make sense? All right, cool. Raising hands before each ruku'. Imam Hanifa says no. If you look at the salah, and we'll look at a slide, and then maybe if I remember, I'll mention this point. But if you look at salah, there were a lot of actions that were allowed in the beginning, and then slowly actions were taken away. What do I mean by this? In the beginning, it was allowed to have conversation in salah. That you could actually talk to people in salah. It was allowed, perfectly permissible. That's why it comes in the hadith, and we'll mention that the man came in, he was praying, and then somebody sneezed. So he didn't know that now talking in salah became impermissible. He didn't know that. So he went in salah, somebody sneezed, so he said, the person said alhamdulillah, so he said ya rahmakullah in salah. And so people started looking at him, and now he's praying, and he goes, why are you guys looking at me? I'm praying. Right? And they were like, so he was like, I don't think that something went wrong. So he's like, okay, I remain silent. And then he goes and he says, I have never in my life met a teacher more polite, more soft, more humble than the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He didn't rebuke me. He didn't yell at me. He didn't scream at me. He very politely told me that conversation in salah has now become prohibited. SubhanAllah. Right? So salah went from a lot of actions to fewer actions. And there are a lot more examples, but again, we're not going to evidences right now. So Imam Abu Hanifa says that yeah, Ameen is established, raising the hands is established, but the final action of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was that he didn't do rafa'i yadayn. He didn't raise his hands before going in ruku, because this is extra action, right? And slowly a lot of actions were taken away from him. So this is again an accepted opinion. Other scholars they say no, the action was basically the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam did this. So that's why we say it's always better to follow one school so you don't get confused. People are like, well, should I do this one or that one? Follow the one, or do as the school that you follow does it. That's it. Khalas. Very simple. All right, so with that one, we go into today's topic, and that is witr. I know there's some little bit of feedback and stuff, but inshallah, I hope you guys can be patient with it. Witr technically means odd. Inna Allaha witr yuhibbul witr. Allah is odd, meaning Allah is one, unique, and Allah loves that which is odd. That's why in ruku and sajda we recite the dhikr in odd numbers, right? Like 3, 5, 7. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves odd numbers. Now, keep in mind, there are different ways, so you stick to one. Again, same point. That when you follow a school, you're following a set of principles. It's because of those different opinions that you reach different conclusions. So if you pick and choose, now you're basically picking and choosing between different principles, and nobody allows that. Okay, so stick to one. All of them are rightly guided. I'm going to mention all 4 ways of doing it, according to all 4 schools of thought, inshallah. Because I know there are people from different backgrounds, different understandings, and inshallah it's going to accommodate everybody. So let's start off with the Hanafis, because we rock, we cool, we rule, right? No, that's not the reason. Hanafi is first because Imam Hanifa rahmatullah came first. He's a tabi'i, he saw the companions of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. According to him, witr is wajib, it is compulsory. Okay, that means you have to make it up. If you miss it, you have to make it up, and leaving it intentionally is actually sinful. How do you pray? You pray 3 rak'ah like Maghrib. We just prayed Maghrib Salah. Witr is exactly the same with 1 salam at the end. Okay, so you pray all 3 together like Maghrib. There's only 1 salam at the end, right? You can nod. Yeah, perfect. Thank you. In 3rd rak'ah, you recite Surah Fatiha, then you recite Surah, then you say Allahu Akbar, and you raise your hands. This time, you're saying Allahu Akbar, and then you recite the Qunut. Okay, Qunut. And you recite it silently, of course, even in Ramadan. Outside Ramadan, it's supposed to be silent anyways. And then you go in ruku', So you say Allahu Akbar, and then you get up, and then you complete your salah. Okay? If you don't know qunut, you're learning, you're new to Islam, you just came back to deen. If you don't know qunut, the entire dua qunut, then you can just say astaghfirullah 3 times. Does that make sense? You can say astaghfirullah, 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 and then go and ruku, your wajib will be done. Qunut literally means to stand in such a state that there is no disobedience with it. Meaning you're completely وَقُومُوا لِلَّهِ قَانِتِينَ. Allah says, stand for Allah in that state that you are firm in what you believe in. Right? With ibadah and stuff. So if you say astaghfirullah, that counts. Alright, cool. Shafi'is are the next here. Okay. Although Imam Malik came before Imam Shafi with a teacher, but I'm just mentioning Shafi'i fiqh over here because it will be easier to explain the Maliki then. So Imam Shafi says it's 3 rakats. He allows 3, 5, 7, 9, 11. Right, you can do that, but generally the strongest opinion in the Shafi fiqh is that it's 3 rakats. But there's a difference. You pray 3 rakats with 2 salams. Meaning after 2 rakats, you say salams, and then you get up and you pray the third one. And so the first 2 are just like any other 2 rakats, and then the third one you get up, and at the end of the rak'ah, you go in ruku first, and then you get up, and then you recite qunut. Okay? And the Shafis actually say that you are supposed to raise your hands while reading qunut. If I'm wrong, please correct me. You follow the Shafi. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, I got it on point. Alhamdulillah. Alright, Hanafis say no. When you recite qunut, you're not supposed to raise your hands. Just keep it, folded, and then do dua. Alright, and then you say Allahu Akbar, and then you complete your prayer. Now, the Hanbalis and the Malikis, they believe, like their method of praying, practically speaking, is exactly the same. However, there's a difference. They say that the first 2 rak'ahs are actually not part of witr. They are just preceded by sunnahs. Does that make sense? So the difference is Shafis, when they start praying 3 rak'ahs, they make the intention in the beginning, that I'm praying witr now. Okay? 2 plus 1. But Malikis and the Hanbalis, they say, no, you just make the intention of sunnah, and then that's why if you go to some Hanbali masjids, when they're about to pray the final rak'ah, that's when they say, we're praying witr now. Right? Because although they'll pray 3, but that's when they will announce. Why? Because that one is not part of witr, technically, the first 2 rak'ahs. Alright, cool. Now, we'll look at istikhara. How many of you have actually done istikhara before? Anybody who's not done it? We all know, we've heard about it? Okay, perfect. So istikhara literally means to seek goodness. It comes from khayr, on the wazn of istif'al. So it means to seek goodness. Something where you're like, it's seeking goodness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he said, مَا خَابَ مَنْ اسْتَخَارَ وَمَا نَدِمَ مَنْ اسْتَشَارَ. That the one who does istikhara will never lose, meaning the one who consults Allah will never lose, and the one who consults people, mashwara, will never regret. Right? So anytime you have to make a decision, you're confused, you're like, I don't know, I'm supposed to, should I do this? Should I take this course? Should I not take this course? Should I buy this? Should I buy iPhone 14, or it's exactly the same as iPhone 13? I don't know if I should buy this one. You're really confused. So in that case, you do istikhara. You don't do istikhara for things that are fault. Should I pray Maghrib today? No, you're supposed to do. Should I attend Sheikh Sohaib's class? You should definitely. You should do istikhara. Okay, anyways. There are some misconceptions about istikhara. Alright? Misconception number 1 is that you are going to have dream. How many of you have heard this? I've heard this, man. People come up and they're like, I want to marry this girl. I was doing istikhara. Sheikh, I did istikhara. And I went to sleep and I thought I'm going to have a dream that I'll be at Candle's banquet hall. And this girl's going to, an angel Jibreel is going to bring this girl from the heavens for me. And Sheikh Sohaib, just to make you happy, you'll be the one performing my nikah. But I woke up and my mom had her slipper in her hand saying, get up a fudger, man. You didn't pray anything. You're like, man, what happened, Sheikh? I did it for 7 days, man. All I did was got beaten up by my mom for not waking up for fudger. I didn't see any girl. Sheikh, what do you think? he got it wrong, bro. You're not gonna have any dream. All right, mistake number one. Second, people think, oh, it's like a traffic light. Red means you get a red light. It means don't do it. Yellow, if you're really into her, just do it, right? You're going full speed. If you stop now, you're gonna break somebody. So just do it. Green means, yeah, of course. You know, Allah's on my side, angels, mashallah, everything's gonna go smooth. Wrong. You're not gonna get istikhara, bro. Istikhara is literally dua. Like you make any dua, that's istikhara, right? Istikhara is dua. Now what happens when dua is answered? You will find out that it's answered or not. But you make istikhara for even small things or big things. Now, this is a long way of doing istikhara. There's a short way of doing istikhara, which is literally just saying, Allahumma khirli wakhtarli. Oh Allah, make it easy for me and give it in my control. Like if you go to the store and you're like, I don't know which hijab to buy, this one or this one. You're not gonna be like, let me just pray 2 rakats, hey, just wait, can it just pray work? No, what you do is just go there, you say, Allahumma khirli wakhtarli, mashallah. You pick up the nice one, you come home, your husband is the most happy man out there because he chose that hijab. Right? So that is basically the quick way of doing it. But the longer way of doing that is you make wudu, you pray 2 rakahs, and after the prayer you make dua that we will share on the next slide, and then you recite salawat at the beginning and at the end of dua, just to make it solid, because it's a hadith of Umar radiallahu anhu on that. Again, very quickly, the dua, you can actually look it up. So I'm just going to move on, inshallah. Alright guys? Because we're not going to memorize it tonight, right? I hope most of us have it memorized, alhamdulillah. So you can read this dua. Once you're done your salah, literally raise your hands, pick out your phone, open this dua up. And then, now what the scholars, they say it when you reach this part, Allahumma in kunta ta'lamu anna hadha al-amr. Or if you're reading in English because you can't read the Arabic or whatever, like, oh Allah, if you know that this matter, right? Anna hadha al-amr. When you read this part, then you think of the thing that you're doing istikhara for. Okay, just think it in your head, or you can say out loud. You have both options, and then continue, inshallah. Sounds good? So now, any clarification for istikhara?
Yeah, first, what should you expect? Like something made easier for you versus difficult for you?
Yeah, so if it's good for you, Allah will make it easy for you. It's going to happen. And if it's not good for you, Allah will not make it happen. Now, here's another misconception that people have, especially when it comes to like buying a car or marriage, and they're like, Sheikh, I did istikhara, and I ended up buying this car. My heart was really on this car. I took it out of the showroom within 5 seconds. The engine lights were on. Just 5 minutes later, somebody just smashed that car from behind. How is that good for me? Sheikh, I got married to this girl. I thought she was my dream girl. She made my life a living hell. I saw Jahannam before dying. Right? No sister in this room. Nobody will be listening to me online. Nobody will listen to me later. Some random one, right? Hypothetical sister. You're like, Sheikh, but hadith istikhara. That was the answer of your dua. There's goodness in that. There's goodness in that failure. Allah never said that I'm going to guarantee success as how you understand it. Allah says, I'm going to put khair in it for you. That's goodness for you. So one thing that's guaranteed through istikhara is goodness. It does not guarantee success how we understand success to be. Okay? It guarantees goodness. Allah will put goodness in that. Alright guys, next question that comes up all the time is when you pray. Sorry, I'm going, as I said before, like last class, I'm going to go very quickly just because we have to cover a lot. So if I say something that you guys don't understand, please stop me and I'll be more than happy to repeat. Alright, so now you're praying. Where are you supposed to look? So when you're in standing position, you're supposed to look at the place of sajda, where you will make sajda. Okay? When you are in the ruku position, you look at between your feet. Okay? Because remember, you're not supposed to raise your head or not lower it right between the feet. Okay? And then when you get up, again, you're looking at the place of sajda. Now, when you are in sajda itself, now I heard this before and I was like, this does not make sense. People are like, look at your nose. I was like, like how? I was like, how are you supposed to look at your nose? Like, that does not make sense at all. And then you stay, it's like, yeah, like, it's not supposed to be like that, right? Like, you're gonna cause some trouble with your eyes. Just look down. You're going to sajda, just look down, okay? Does that make sense? So that's what they mean by nose, not like, it's like, look down. And then, when you're in attahiyat position, look between your thighs. Okay? And that's it. Now, here's the interesting thing. People say, man, but I'm able to concentrate better when I have my eyes closed. So somebody mentioned this to a Mufti, and he said something beautiful. He said, I think it was Mufti Usmani, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I think it was him. He said, yes, if you keep your eyes closed, you might feel more concentration, but you will miss out on the rewards of following the sunnah. Because the sunnah is to keep your eyes open in salah. Right? So if you keep your eyes open and you struggle, you will get more rewards because now you're trying to follow the sunnah and you're going through that struggle. Right? So keep your eyes open. Now, did you guys know this? Who knew this? The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ had 360 vision. You knew that? Anybody? Yeah? Yeah? Who can mention the proof?
One prayer, one time he commented on a guy that's behind him, right?
Yes, and that's going to come up. Okay, that's good. The hadith of Bukhari and Muslim, it's one of the most strongest ahadith out there. He actually mentioned, he goes, watch how you make ruku and sajda because I see behind like I see the front. Right? He goes, just be careful. SubhanAllah. Like, literally, there was another man who came in, he wanted to establish Rasulullah from behind, and he just, Rasulullah was looking in the opposite direction. He goes, what do you want? What do you mean? He goes, what are you hiding behind your check? And he was standing like this. He came like this with his dagger to establish Rasulullah. He goes, like, yo, what's behind your... He goes, behind it. He goes, what's behind your body? He goes, how did you find out? So yeah, so Rasulullah was actually seeing. Cool? Alright, sutra, barrier. There you go. Hafizullah. Came in, mashallah. Alright, sutra. Sutra comes from the word satar. Satar is also to hide something. It's like a barrier, right? Sutra. So when a person is praying, it is a sin to actually pass in front of the person. Rasulullah said in the hadith that if you just know the sin of passing in front of a praying person, that he would prefer staying for 40, and then he didn't say anything. And Abu Hurairah was like, probably means 40 years. That he would just rather prefer staying there, just out of shock of that sin that you've committed. So what's the way out? The way out is to put sutra, so like a barrier, right? And then that can serve as a barrier and you can pass in front of them. Okay, so you can put a sutra and then you can just pass. Now, how long is that barrier supposed to be? I understand there are different opinions. I gave you the Hanafi one over here, and that is an arm's length that nobody disagrees with. Because what comes in the hadith is the back that you put on the camel. So when you mount the camel, right, they used to have these seats. It's like the back of the seat. And they would actually put that over there as sutra. Does that make sense? On the camel, take it off, right? Use that as sutra, and then continue. So the scholars actually derive from that one that it's supposed to be an arm's length. Okay, something that's an arm's length. You can use that one. Can be a backpack, can be a chair, whatever. Now, when you're praying in congregation, the sutra for the imam is a sutra for the congregation. Okay? Now, this is useful when you go to the masjids, and sometimes the entrance might be on the side, right? Or might be right in the middle of the back. And people are praying, and you're like, oh my God, man, there are some rows here that we might have to pass. And so in that case, if the jama'ah is going on, because there is a wall in front of the imam, so technically has a sutra, so you can actually go in front of the congregants. Does that make sense? Because sometimes, okay, the brother is saying, he does not understand. That's okay. That's what we're here for. I'm going to explain, inshallah. All right, guys. This is the beautiful masjid. It's called Masjid McMaster. All right, cool. This is the qibla. This is where the imam is. Okay? And then you have entrance at the back. Can you guys all see this? Okay? There's entrance at the back. And so there might be people praying over here. they start they make the rows over here, there's space over here in the back, okay? And then there are people praying on this side. There's gap over here. But let's say we'll change the entrance right now with the permission of MSA. We'll just go over here instead. Okay, that's the entrance. Now when you enter, you see 3 guys are praying, then there's space, and then 3 other guys are praying. Okay? They don't want to talk to each other because they support different teams in the World Cup and they run to a fight. And they don't want to keep a gap. They're like, I am neutral, so I'm going to pray in the middle. So now you have to walk in front of them. You don't have a sutra. But because they're part of this whole jama'ah, imagine like all these are rows, right? So because there's a sutra in front of the imam, his sutra counts as sutra in front of every congregant. So it is as if the sutra is there.
So I can walk between the stuff?
Yeah, then you can walk between the stuff in that case. Okay? But if they're individually praying, then you're not supposed to walk.
For that one, is there distance? Like,
I'm going to come to that one, yeah.
Yeah, just 2 really quick yes or no questions related to this.
Too many.
No, 2 like really quick.
Oh,
really quick.
2.
Yeah. The first one is so the arms length and size. Does that have to be like the object or whatever the sutra is? Does that have to be upright?
Yeah, and like vertically.
Okay.
Yeah,
So it can't be like a backpack that's like falling over as
No,
it's standing up.
no, standing up. That's a good question, yeah.
And
So you're
then
standing up.
The next question would be, so if you were to walk in front of the imam when they did not have a sutra, it would be a sin on you that you shouldn't do, obviously. But would it affect the validity of the imam's prayer?
No.
Okay.
There's an interesting hadith actually. Some Iraqis actually came to Aisha radiallahu anha. It's in Bukhari. And they said if a woman passed in front of the imam or the black dog, right? She had to mention, huh? So he said something? Oh yeah. The Salah al-Musalli breaks. Like she got really upset. She's like, you guys are equating us to dogs, and she got super upset. You don't know, I used to lie down and the Prophet used to face me while praying. Go, beat that. Because you misunderstood the hadith. Anyways. Alright. I saw another hand in the back. Clarification?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, does the imam have to have a sutra?
Doesn't have to have, but should have when they're praying.
I mean, someone who wants
It's not a requirement for the validity of salah, no. But they should have it though.
I mean, someone wants to like walk between the musallin, and the imam doesn't have a sutra.
No, then they would have to put individually in front of the congregant and then move. Yeah.
If someone is pushing their way through the congregants, and like, does your chest always have to be facing the qibla? Like, if someone pushes you like this, would this invalidate your prayer?
Somebody pushes you.
someone must have been doing the leaving to go back to the...
Oh, in that case, sorry, I did not really understand the question. So you're saying the person is walking outside the masjid?
So facing the qibla as a congregant,
Okay.
if at any moment someone just like I guess pushes between the congregants, so like you go like this.
Oh, somebody pushes you.
Yes.
We'll talk about that. I mean, technically salah should break
Yeah.
because your chest is not facing the qibla. But there are other ways of doing it. It'd be like, come back. Yeah. Okay. Was there any other hand? Yeah.
How if you just like finish praying and there's like a brother like praying behind you and like the one
We'll talk about that. Oh, tips and tricks, man. We got tips and tricks for you. That's what we're here for, right? I'm gonna make life easy for my fellows. Alhamdulillah. All right, tip number 1. You don't have a sutra, you don't have a barrier and stuff. What are you supposed to do in that case? There are different opinions. Let's go with the easiest one, and that is when you're praying, your vision, the entire, what do you call it? The peripheral vision, right? So when you look down, so you're looking down at the place of sajda. So generally, typically, it's a little ahead of the first saf. When you're looking down at the place of sajda, you can look a little bit ahead of the second saf, right? So you can pass from the third saf. Basically, any point past the vision of the musalli. Okay, so if you're praying, that's row number 1, and you can see, let's say, half of row number 2. So just pass in front of row number 3. That's one. Second one, which I love, that takes away from all the ikhtilaf, is this. What's prohibited in the hadith is Rasulullah used a very specific word. He used murur. Right? Marra yamurru. Mururan means to pass, like pass without stopping. To go from one place to the other without stopping. That's murur. You cross it. So let me give you right? Any brother want to volunteer? Come up. We can flex in front of the camera. Okay, come. Nice walk all the way from the back room. Don't hate me for life, inshallah. You're gonna love me after this one. Okay, perfect. So, you come on this side. Yeah. Okay, so the brother is praying Salah. Okay? Now I want to pass in front of him, but I don't have any sutra. He doesn't have a sutra, and I don't have anything to put. Okay? So what do? This is what I do. No, you're in Salah right now. Okay, Malik, inshallah. I can tell he's still praying. Yeah. Let me do that again. I want to go again because my stuff is right there, right? See what I did there? What did I do?
You stopped.
I stopped. So now that murur is not there anymore.
Why are you facing the same direction while you stop?
Because I shouldn't be facing him. He's praying.
Yeah, but you can in the same direction. Like
No.
going there.
No, but you just turn around. I mean, you can. Technically, you can. Stop. Just to avoid the distraction. Just go this way. Stop. Now it's a new movement.
And it'd be best to do it as far away from him as possible.
Yeah, of course. I mean, there's no space here. I want to get the camera in and stuff. But yeah, not in front of him.
By the way, I see some Muslims, they do this.
Yeah, it comes in the hadith and stuff. But you tell them, like, shake hands or something. It's not going to go back to that. Guys, sounds good? Tips and tricks? Okay, excellent.
So what do you ask? Can you put a hand out to stop people from?
Yeah, some people, I mean, it comes in the hadith, you're supposed to stop. But then the Hanafi fiqh actually says that if somebody does, technically you're not supposed to do it. But if you do it to stop them, then a person should know. And, because what they're stopping is murur, right? From passing by. So when they go like this, they're stopping you from going right in front of them. So the only way their hand is going to reach you is if you're passing right in front of them.
Yeah.
Right? But you go past the,
Pass the hand.
yeah, give a rose gap and then go. Unless they walk towards you and then stretch you again. I mean, that's nobody can control it. Yeah. No, I saw Hafsan. Yeah.
Yeah, so in terms of sutra on the Imam and the Salah, each individual person has their own sutra again. Like during Salah when the Imam is leading, obviously.
Yeah. In that case, once the Salah is done, we'll come to that inshallah because Masbook is a topic there inshallah. Hopefully we can reach it. But basically, once the Salah is done, if there's somebody who missed their Salah and now they're making up for it, they are praying their individual Salah. Like technically they're not in a congregation. Okay? So the rules change. Is it? Yeah. Okay.
So this is a disclaimer. This isn't my question. It's my sister's question.
Okay.
So take it as you will. So when you're in sajda and somebody's walking.
That's a nice way of throwing somebody under the bus. I see how it is.
Yeah. Can you jump over them?
What do you mean?
Instead of walking in front of them, you have to jump over.
People usually skip them when you're inside the.
If I know somebody's gonna jump over me, I'm gonna get up right there. I don't know. I can look at
That was my reaction.
No, it's a good. I mean, it's a valid. I know some situations you might technically, but I mean, you're not supposed to. Okay, so now what are the makruh, the disliked actions of Salah? Makruh comes from kariha yakrahu, right? Karaha is when you dislike something. So these are actions, if you do, your Salah is not going to break, but your rewards will decrease. Does that make sense? If you do these actions, your Salah will not break, but will decrease the actions. Alright, so number one, to do anything against the Sunnah of Salah. So remember we talked about the obligatory actions, we talked about the compulsory actions, we talked about the Sunnahs. So anything you do that is against the Sunnah of Salah, that will be, as an example, we mentioned about, let's say in Ruku, you're supposed to say Subhana Rabbiyal Azim. And in Sajda, you're supposed to say Subhana Rabbiyal A'la. But you reverse it, and in Ruku, you start saying Subhana Rabbiyal A'la. And in Sajda, you start saying Subhana Rabbiyal Azim. So that will be a disliked action. That's good.
Just a technical question. Is it mustahab to do that sunnah?
You can ask me Fiqh of Salah, inshallah. No, it's a good question, but that's not clarification, so we'll take it at the end, inshallah.
Please, everybody, use the tiny URL.
Yeah. All right. To pray in an area where pictures or portraits of animate objects are hung. So this is important because we Muslims like to take all the pictures, from childhood and stuff, get the massive portrait, put it on the walls and stuff. If that's the case, it's actually disliked to pray in that room. Okay? Because Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he mentioned that a house where pictures are hung or there's dog, angels of mercy do not enter. Right? So what are you supposed to do? Or you might be, in a place and you don't have any of the room to pray. Keep in mind, if there's a necessity, you will miss your salah if you're not, because you might be at a place, but they don't have a place to pray except that room. And there are pictures there. So that's an exception. Okay? We're not talking about exceptions, we're talking about general rule. In that case, it is makruh, dislike to pray in that room. So the way out is the way out for that one is take a piece of cloth, drape it over the picture. So as long as you hide it, you get out of the karahiyah.
Just putting the picture face down.
Yeah,
also
that works.
All right.
Number 3, for the imam or some of his followers to stand on a raised platform while others are lower on ground. Okay? So you're on a high platform and others are on the ground. That is actually disliked. They should be all on the same level. Now, how high is high? An arm's length. Again, arm's length. Does that make sense? So as long as the platform is lower than this, it's not disliked. But if it's higher than this, then it is disliked. Yes, brother.
Then what about in another scenario where masjids have multiple floors?
Yeah, that's a completely different rule because that's out of necessity.
Okay.
Right? Again, remember, necessity takes it out. Okay. For a latecomer to proceed into ruku before reaching a row of the congregational prayer. This is very interesting. So, this is what happened at the time of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. All right. This was the masjid of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right? These were the rows of the brothers, and this was the rows for the sisters, and the entrance was over here. Okay. So the qibla was this way. So one Sahabi, he came in. Now there was a sister who asked on Monday this question about at what point do you miss your rak'ah? Remember that question? Right? And what did I say? The moment the imam
Goes up.
lifts their head to stand up, that's when your rak'ah is done. Correct? Remember that? So this Sahabi, he comes in while Rasulullah was in ruku. Okay? Now keep in mind, he has to walk all the way up, right? He has to go all the way from here, make his way down, all the way to join the rows up there. So you know what he did? He entered the masjid, he went in ruku. I was like, oh. It's like, yeah, I got the ruku. So Rasulullah 360 vision, he saw that, right? He thought he's gonna escape. He saw that, he goes, well, you did it now, don't do it again. Right? So he goes, come, take your time, come, join the salah, whatever you catch, complete it, and whatever you miss, make it up for it afterwards. Alright. To not join any row of congregants despite space being available and instead pray individually in a separate row. If I am not mistaken, in the Hanbali fiqh, your salah does not even count. Don't quote me on this, but that's what I've heard. In the other Mabahid, your salah does count, but it's disliked. So basically, if, let's say, the rows are done, this is, again, let's use the same one. Let's say there are 2 rows here. Okay, let's erase this. There are 2 rows, and this row is complete now. And you walk in and you're the last person here. You're the only one. So to pray individually is disliked. So what are you supposed to do? Technically speaking, you're supposed to tap the guy in front of you. Okay, you tap, and then they go back. They move back. So now it's 2, and then the rest of the stuff, they actually close in. Okay, that's technically what you're supposed to do. I've tried it a few times. It doesn't really work all the time. The people are just like, hey, man, you're disturbing me in salah. Alright, I'll just pray alone. You can't really do anything on that one. Alright, to lean on something while standing. If you're standing and you're like, I'm so tired of whatever I'm leaning, I'm reclining because the imam is just going on, can't take it. That is dislike. People will ask, what about old people? Man, old people, they can't stand, sit well. I mean, they can use, you know, some stick, cane, whatever. If they really have to, they can keep it with them. But they shouldn't lean on them. They should be as some sort of support. To keep your hair braided if you're a male. So that means braiding hair for males is permissible, but you should open it up. As opposed to any type of, you know, ponytails are pretty common within brothers. In that case, you're supposed to open it up. Okay? So unbraid your hair when you're praying, or take off your pony and then pray. This does not apply to sisters. They can keep their hair braided while praying. But for brothers, they should. If they don't do it, it's makruh, because the hair makes sajda with you. Okay? To pray topless if you're a male. Again, brothers will be like, yo, use mention so that I'm going from navel to knee, so I can sit all this, you know, I can walk around my university topless in summer. Just because that's not part of awrah shouldn't mean that others are allowed to look at it, right? There's a whole debate about this. Can women look at a topless man? No, sisters, please lower your gaze. Sure. All right, to place a cloth, such as shawl, over your head or shoulders in a manner that its corners dangle down. A lot of people make this mistake in winter especially. So you got your nice scarf here, you know, you pray, you come out when you're praying. This is called sadal. So Rasulullah naha an sadal fi salah, right? In salah, what is impermissible or disliked is to keep your, to have something draped over your shoulders in a way that the two ends are hanging down like this, okay? So if you go in ruku like this, they hang down. This is sadal. Outside salah it is permissible. Inside salah it is impermissible. So the way out is that you go like this. So even if you have one corner around your shoulder, or if you go around, wrap it around like this, that should be fine, okay? It doesn't apply to that one. I know, question comes up. What about strings on my hoodie? No, it doesn't apply. I'll take the questions right now. Just one more clarification. It does not apply to sisters' hijab. No, seriously. I'll tell you why. Who can tell me why? Sisters, tell me why. Thank you. It's wrapped around the head. There's not a hijab tutorial, by the way. I'm just teaching you. There you go. Right? It's like this. Now, what some sisters do though is they take extra shawl. They have hijab on, but they take extra shawl and they drape it over their shoulders. Okay? So in that case, they should take that extra one and put it on their shoulders. Does that make sense? Is that clear? I saw 3 hands over here, so we'll start with Fia.
When you wrapped it all the way around, aren't the corners still?
They still are, but they're still folded though. It's not just like this, and that's because it's not said anymore.
I had a question with the last line. I just wanted to confirm something in terms of joining the row. That applies strictly to joining the row, not joining the congregation. Like, for example, if you see people praying in congregation, is there any sort of obligation to join the congregation, or should we pray? Is there anything like that?
For males, yes. For sisters, no. Yeah. I saw a third hand, and then all of the brothers. Yes. Was it a third hand? No. I was seeing hands.
I think it was a hijab question.
Oh, okay,
Everybody was
perfect.
trying
My question: are you gonna talk about praying with the shoulders exposed, like if you're wearing
For the male.
for the male? Is there any women who regard praying with the shoulder exposed?
Shoulders?
Yes.
Yeah, it should be covered. Shoulders should be covered. Yeah, but you can. You can uncover if there's at least.
Like if you're wearing basketball shoes or something. I don't know.
That's fine.
Yeah.
It covers the shoulders. Yeah. I mean, the forearms are and the upper arms are exposed.
What about tank tops? I think that's what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Oh, those have. Oh, yeah. I mean, that's fine. I mean, we'll talk about one thing that's going to come up. But I'm going to go back to that one. Yeah.
To add to the clarification, some scholars said that problem at Imam al-Bab, so when you don't see the one in front of, if you don't see the Imam moving out, you see the Musallin and then you follow them, you don't follow the Imam, when you want to join the row. Like he raised up.
Yeah. We'll come to that one inshallah. Question at the end. That's a clarification question, right? So we'll come to that inshallah.
Tiny URL, guys. Tiny URL.
To wear clothing. Oh, I mean, were you reading my slide when you asked that question? Or I read your mind and I put it up there. Because that next one, it basically answers your question, right? Which is to wear clothing which you would not wear in the presence of a respectable person. Now, simple question: would you wear that basketball jersey to an interview? Right? Would you wear that to your university classroom on a regular basis, just like a thing? I mean, in that case, yeah, okay, university doesn't have really respect in that sense. I get that. It depends on culture to culture, it depends on context. But generally speaking, when you look at the norms of society, right? What individuals do, keep in mind, guys, anytime you hear this thing about customs and norms, you look at what is generally done and not what is done by few individuals. Keep that in mind, okay? This is very important. Because you always have those weird people doing weird things. That will always be there. But that does not establish the norms. Okay, the norm is what is generally understood to be respectful in that community, in that society. Okay, so wearing half sleeves is fine because that is something that is still done by, now people wear that everywhere. Like that's the norm. So that would still apply. But I mean, when it comes to basketball jersey, I mean, technically speaking, it's allowed. But should you make that a habit and be like, I'm just lazy, I don't want to change? No, I think you should. Yeah.
So then, like, if you pray in like a lungi, for example, like
I think
or
question.
pajamas.
Question again. We'll come back. There's a lot to cover. I'll come back. There's a lot to cover. Well, no, I'll answer inshallah, but at the end. To fiddle with your clothes or any part of your body, right? To fiddle meaning just all the fiddling around, thing with your clothes. No, there should be concentration. The whole part is khushu'. To hold back your clothes, you're getting up, hold it back or something, that is impermissible. To keep your mouth covered. Now, this is important because some people are like, oh, these masjid guys and the imams are so backward. They're like talking about COVID and they're saying don't cover your face and stuff. And now you have some people saying that, right? Like who said don't cover your mouth. Now, understand, even if we disagree with that statement, where they were like don't cover your mouth, we should understand where they're coming from. Okay, so we shouldn't disrespect them. Because and this is especially for males, right, to keep your mouth covered, is that it is actually prohibited in the hadith for males. However, COVID, you want me to put your mask on and for safety reasons, then it is permissible. To spit or clean out your nose, like in salah. To blow air from your mouth. Oh man, this is the most annoying pet peeve that I have. Yawning, first of all, the hadith mentioned it comes from shaitan. But sometimes you're tired and stuff, you have to yawn. Actually, it's proven, the scholars have written that there's not even a single prophet who actually yawned. Right? And try this, I've tried this out. If you're about to yawn, think about this, that no prophet ever yawned. Tell me what happens. You have my number, send me a message. No, seriously, I'm curious to know what happens, okay? But this is what some people do. Sorry guys, I'm gonna leave my book, which you shouldn't be doing. Have you seen that? Makruh, disliked. To keep your eyes shut in salah, right? We talked about that, that is disliked. To look around. Now, technically speaking, you go back to the question somebody asked about, moving your chest away breaks your salah. But if you are in salah and you look around, to see who's in the masjid, who's praying, who's not praying. This is disliked, but your salah does not break. A sister asked me this question. She was like, what about you have a baby, right? In the room and you're praying and the baby can actually fall. Then in that case, am I allowed to look? I was like, yes, you can look around as long as you don't move your chest away from the qibla. Does that make sense? So if your baby is about to fall, whatever, you can look around. Stop, right? So you shouldn't do this. Again, keep in mind, where are your eyes supposed to be? In those specific places. And that is the sunnah. And not following the sunnah is actually disliked in of itself. Does that make sense now? So to look around is to wipe dust or sweat off your forehead. You pray outside on the grass and then you get up and now there's all that mud on your forehead. To clean it while you're praying is actually disliked. Right? Just pray that way. It comes to the hadith, Rasulullah prayed that way. No one's checking you out right now. No one's taking pictures of you. No one's gonna put it on social media, trust me. Right? So do your thing, pray your salah, and once you're done, then wipe it off. To stretch and yawn, we talked about that. To interlock the fingers of both hands. In Salah, just like. To crack your fingers. Too long of a rak'ah. I want to waste my time. I don't know what Imam is reciting anyways. To count verses of Quran or tasbih. Okay? So you go in ruku, you're like, Subhanallah Azim, on your fingers basically. And like, Imam's like, yo, Sheikh Sohaib said 3, 5, 7, so you're counting with your fingers. While in ruku, in sajda, that is disliked. Okay? It should be in your brain. To place your hands on your hips. Imam Sahab, it's such a long salah. What are you doing? Place your hands on your hips. This is disliked. To perform ruku or sujood before the Imam. Happens all the time. Rasulullah ﷺ, he said that the person is like a donkey while she does it. And so there's actually a person whose face was turned into the face of a donkey. He was a muhaddith. Like a hadith narrator. He said, and he would teach with his face covered. And then students were like, why do you have your face covered all the time? He goes, because I made a mistake. When we read a hadith that warns people about certain things, and you're like, I want to test it out if it actually happened. He said, I wanted to test it out, and I did it, and Allah actually turned my face into the face of a donkey. May Allah protect my all. To recite the Quran in a posture other than qiyam. So this is what happens. People are praying. Right? That's supposed to. Quran is only in qiyam position. Man, there's so much to cover. To wipe away pebbles or any of the harmful objects other than ones from the area where you plan, from the area where you plans to. Sorry, I'm confused. All right. Anyways, where you plan on prostrating. So the place of sajda, you can move it one time. To spread your forearms on the ground while prostrating. Again, guys, keep this. Again, I think a sister asked this question yesterday about the way I showed how women are supposed to make sajda. This prohibition is where the elbow is touching the ground as well. Like this, right? Elbow is touching the ground, then it is prohibited. If not, to squat. Early morning fajr, my trainer told me I gotta squat. Like, there you go. She didn't do that in Salah, right? That is makruh. Well, some people do that because they can't sit in at-tahiyyat, so they're like, I want to squat. No. To sit cross-legged without a reasonable excuse. Right? So in at-tahiyyat position, this is way more comfortable than what Sheikh Sohaib taught yesterday. Alright, this is disliked. Alright, these are the actions that break your salah. To break your wudu. To deliberately break wudu. This is mentioned for a reason. If you break your wudu by mistake, then it doesn't break your wudu. Guys, ready for a funny story?
Then it doesn't break your salah.
It doesn't break your salah, thank you. So, I went to York, and I was praying, mashallah, Maghrib Salah. You don't know the year that it happens, you don't know who I'm talking about, you don't know who the Imam was, there's so many Jama'as. Anyway, so I was praying right behind the Imam, and we were praying outside, by the way. And then we went into sajda, and I wanted to concentrate in sajda. But the smell, I was like, can't concentrate anymore. I was like, I don't know who's gonna walk out now. Before I know, somebody tapped my shoulders. It was the Imam. I was like, yeah, now I know who it was. Went up, astaghfirullah. Anyway, so if it breaks your wudu, unintentionally, you don't want that to happen, it happens, you just walk out, make wudu, and you can come back and pray, but it's good to repeat. I saw some hands, we'll just finish this and then we'll take questions, inshallah, okay? To speak on purpose or by mistake, just talk to somebody. Oh, yeah, I'm praying. It happens, people are like, yo, I'm praying, I'll call you back. Breaks your salah. To respond to someone sneezing, greetings, or speaking. Remember that guy, that hadith that I mentioned in the beginning? That was yarhamakullah, right? It breaks your salah. Somebody comes in and says, Assalamu alaikum, you're like, wa alaikum assalam, I'm praying. Breaks your salah. If you say wa alaikum, if you say with your hands though, so somebody comes in and says salams, and you're just like, you somehow indicate that you're in salah with your hands. Does that make sense? Somebody comes in and they just won't stop unless they know that you're in salah. And you want to inform them, so you just indicate with your hands, that will be permissible. To articulate something that resembles human speech, such as saying, ah, ooh, oof, you're injured, You know, I play soccer, I got a bad injury 2 weeks ago. It was hurting. Right? Who's getting up? Now, if I were to say, it's done. Okay? Sometimes, you know, words, you know, sometimes words come out from your mouth. They're not full words, they're just expressions kind of thing. Like, all right, that's fine. But if it becomes like a word, like a full word, then it breaks your salah. This does not apply to, actually that's gonna come. To blow in a manner that a sound is heard, right? So same thing. Right? Somebody's going to break peekaboo. Right. To cough or clear the throat unnecessarily. You're praying and somebody behind you is like, happen?
Yeah.
You've all been there, right? Alhamdulillah. So there was an imam, he was reciting salah, and then what ended up happening was he started making, like he was reciting everything except for Quran in salah. He was reciting poetry, right? So people actually didn't know because they don't know what, you know, most people don't know what is being recited. So he was reciting his Arabic poetry. And so people were like enjoying it, like, mashallah, beautiful. Except for one guy, you know, Hafiz was standing right behind him. It's like, yo, I know this guy is not reciting Quran. Right? So he goes, so this is called tanahnaha in Arabic. So this guy, as soon as he heard this, he started reciting. He goes, Ya mutanahna. He's leading, okay? As soon as he heard this, he goes, يا متنحنح لا تتنحنح عندي 10 دراهم نصف لي ونصف لك. He goes, oh, the one who's clearing his throat, don't clear your throat because I got $10, half for you and half for me. The Imam. Started reciting his song. Anyway. To cry or express agony over something that is not connected to any part of your salah. If you cry because you hear about the verses of hellfire and you want to seek protection, or you think about Jannah and you get close to Allah, that's fine. But if you were crying because you lost your loved one and she didn't accept your proposal and you're crying because of that reason, man, sorry to say, but if you start making noise, one is to shed tears and stuff, that's fine. But one is to start making noise, that your salah breaks. To accept a correction in the recitation of the Quran from someone who is not performing the same salah as you. So you're performing, one is you make a mistake, somebody behind you correct you, you take, what's called luqma, right? You take the correction from them, that's fine. But if you take it from somebody who's not in salah, then your salah breaks. To make an error in the recitation of the Quran that distorts its meaning, this is super complicated, don't worry about this, okay? To establish that is super complicated. To recite the Quran by looking into a copy of it, there's consensus that it applies to fard salah and stuff. There might be some different opinions with regards to nafil, so I'm not going to go into differences right now. To laugh out loud during salah. Okay, so there's a difference between smiling and laughing. So one is you smile, right? Or you find something funny and you try to control it. That's fine. But if you laugh in a way that you yourself can hear your laugh or somebody next to you, then your salah breaks. And your wudu breaks if it happens in salah. If you laugh outside salah, that is fine. Your wudu does not break. But if you laugh out loud in salah, then your wudu also breaks. Okay? Can I just quickly finish the slide and then come back, inshallah? It's almost done. To turn your chest away from the qibla. We mentioned that, right? To turn away, that breaks your salah. To expose your awrah. This is important. Because here's the rule. What is allowed is for each limb of the total awrah. If 1/4 of that limb is exposed, then it is permissible. I'll explain, guys. Don't look at me like this. Okay, I'll explain. But if more than 1/4 is exposed, for the duration of saying Subhanallah 3 times, then your salah breaks. This is super important for sisters. So I want sisters to pay attention to this because this question comes up all the time from them. So, let's say sisters as an example. the entire body has to be covered except for face, hands, and feet. So let's say the arms are supposed to be covered. For sisters, the arms are supposed to be covered. Now, let's say this is the upper arm, and this is the elbow, this is the forearm, right? So,
It's not that bad. It's a
don't make fun of my drawing, okay? Sorry, 5 fingers, my bad. So, technically this is supposed to be covered, right? All of this. Now, this forearm is a limb, upper arm is a limb, okay? So if 1/4 of this is exposed, this is permissible. Your salah will still be valid, even if it's exposed for the duration of your entire salah, okay? But if more than 1/4 is exposed for the duration it takes to recite subhanallah 3 times, then your salah breaks. This is important because sisters are like, they pray the salah and they're like, you know, I prayed my entire salah, but then I saw my 5 here were like sticking out from my jab here, you know, on my face. It happens, right? You can say yes, right? It happens. Your salah is still valid. Okay? Why? Because it's less than 1/4. Okay? So technically, don't start doing this, but technically speaking, if you take a hijab and you go like this, 1/4, less than 1/4, right? And people can see your front hair and stuff, your salah is still valid. Does that make sense? Okay? It's especially important for sisters, but it applies to brothers as well. It especially applies to brothers. I'm going to call you out right now. Not you. Anyone in this room? Not you. I'm calling who?
anyone.
Anyone who's not in this room. All right, guys, when you wear t-shirts and you pray, let me tell you something. All right. When you go in sajda, I'm not going to draw that, okay? When you go in, you got to go in sajda, and a lot of times the back is exposed. Now, when the back is exposed, a lot of times it's more than 1/4 that is exposed. So if it's exposed for more than basically 2 seconds, because that's what it takes to recite subhanallah 3 times, your salah will break. So don't do that, inshallah. All right. So cover it up. To carry out any action during salah which either involves using both hands or leave an onlooker under the impression that you're not performing salah, we covered that on Monday, so I'm going to skip that. To have a woman stand beside a man while performing the same congregation salah. If there's a woman, an adult woman,
Even mahram.
Adult woman, she goes and she prays the same salah next to a man who's praying the same salah, and they're in the same jama'ah, then the salah of the male breaks and not the woman. So sisters, if you dislike your husband or your brother, you know what to do.
You know what not to do.
You got to fight with me? Try to pray Dhuhr now. Allahu Akbar. All right.
Finally goes to the masjid.
Yeah, exactly. All right, cool. To eat or drink during salah, right? The only exception for eating is if it's something smaller than chickpea that is left in your mouth. You know, that's permissible. But as long as it's something that is not, then your salah breaks. I wanted to take a break, but there's no time whatsoever because we have so much to cover. Very quickly, I saw, yeah, Sister Yusa, and then back, and then we'll come back to you, Sister.
So you're saying that I think crying and laughing or crying in something related to the salah is impermissible or disliked. What about for janazah? Like if you're crying for the dead one, is that related to the salah?
Crying itself, as I said, is not problematic. Crying out loud with noise is problematic. If you're shedding tears, right? I mean, we're told to turn to Allah when we're going through some difficulty in life. So that's something that's beautiful. I think the battery is running low on this one, so I don't know if you want to plug it in or something. Brother at the back? Yeah.
Yes, you said beside. What counts as beside?
Right next to him.
Yeah, like
With no barriers in the middle and stuff, yeah. Just.
But sometimes there's no room and she needs to be like only 2 feet behind, so what does
That's different. That's behind. It's right next to the person, yeah.
So for the 1/4 rule, like for example, when going down into prostrations and things like the back, like a sliver of like the back of your neck can show.
Yeah.
How do you count 1/4 of the neck?
Question. URL. We'll come to that one, inshallah. Okay, perfect. If you don't know Arabic, guys, we got to cover this one. Very important because there might be converts, right, who come into Deen. There might be, and if you know somebody, then this is a very important slide to know as well, because then you can tell them, right? So somebody's a convert, they don't know, they're just learning Deen right now, or somebody just came back to Deen, now they're learning about Arabic and stuff, and now they need to know how to perform Salah, and they're struggling because they've never read Arabic. So in that case, man, again, this class, we're gonna make it simple for you, right? Simplest thing is repeat any dhikr, any remembrance of Allah that you know. Even saying Allahu Akbar, Subhanallah, Alhamdulillah, Bismillah, or any part of Fatiha. You can literally just stand there and be like, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, or Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. That's it, it counts. Bismillah, 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 Bismillah. Go down, your salah is done, right? And then slowly and slowly, you actually learn. So the top priority for people who don't know Arabic is to learn Surah Fatiha. Again, if there are converts who are watching, if there are converts in this room, or you know somebody, or eventually you'll come back or whatever, Deen, you're learning, this is somebody who comes up to you and be like, yo, I want to learn Salah, what's the first thing I should do? Learn Surah Fatiha. Then learn a short surah of Quran. Wal Asr. Okay, Inna A'tainaka al-Kawthar. Short surahs, and then At-Tahiyyat. Why? Because At-Tahiyyat is wajib, remember? We studied that, yeah? It's wajib, it's compulsory. So take it slowly but surely. So don't take it too slow, slowly but surely. Some scholars, I haven't read this, but I heard this, and please correct me if you find another narration, but Imam Shafi Rahmatullah alayhi, he says, take 6 months. Like within 6 months, you should be in that place where you know Surah Fatiha, you know like the main Salah, main parts of the Salah. Alright guys, if you are sick or injured, how are you supposed to perform Salah? You get into injury. You're under the weather, you're feeling sick. So what ends up happening is, okay, if you're a sick or injured person such that you cannot make sajda, you cannot prostrate, this is important. There are different types of injuries out there, right? If it's an injury that prohibits you or that stops you or that prevents you from making the sajda on the ground, then the qiyam position, which is standing, which is it obligatory, compulsory, sunnah? What is it? Obligatory, right? Is everybody on the same page?
Yeah.
Well, I'm hearing like 2 people reply. Yo, standing is obligatory, meaning if you don't do it, your salah does not count. But in this case, when you are unable to make sajda, that qiyam position, standing, is no longer obligatory on you. Okay, that drops. Does that make sense? That means you can and you should pray sitting down. If you cannot make sajda, you should pray sitting down. Okay? What some people do is they're injured, they stand for the duration of qiyam and then they go into ruku and then they do sajda sitting down. No, they should. And it's the most annoying when you're praying in the masjid. You know, all these chairs are nicely lined up. All these, some uncles are sitting there. Why am I calling out uncles, man? I mean, all the injured folks are sitting there. Young injured folks. And then there is one guy which was standing right in the front. What happens? It breaks the saf. It breaks the row. And so if you sit down, then it's going to continue the saf. All right, so that's how you pray then. Okay, awesome. So how are you supposed to pray? Sitting down. The ideal is to pray on the ground if you can, right? Then you stretch your legs towards the qibla. Okay? If you pray on the musalla, you stretch your legs towards the qibla. If you're sitting down, you pray. Make sure or try not to recline on anything. Or the back. Avoid that. Second thing, when you make sajda, don't put anything towards your head, or don't make sajda on anything. Make sure it's in the open air, right? So when you're doing ruku, you go down. Now look at my fingers, okay? They're not going past the knee. And my back is bent forward slightly. Does that make sense? Subhanallah, Sami-Allahu liman hamida. And then when you go in sajda, you bend forward more and you stretch out your hands and your fingers, basically fingers. Does that make sense now? So can anybody see this? Can everybody see this? Let me do it one more time, okay? Subhanallah al-Azim, Sami-Allahu liman hamida. And then Allahu Akbar, and then I stretch my hands out and I bend more. But I'm not putting my forehead on anything, nor am I putting anything towards my forehead to make the sajda. Okay, it's over there, yes.
So your hands in sajda in air, or are they attached to your knees?
The palm is still on the knee, but the fingers are outside.
So palm is attached to your knees.
Clarification or question? Yes.
Sir, my English is weak, but let me understand you on the question. Before you mentioned that moving in Salah is permissible or not, that sometimes I see people.
Yeah, I think that's a question. Can you guys send it to the thing? Inshallah, I'll clarify. Yeah, I'll answer the question. See that link right there? Send it and I'll cover that question, inshallah. I'm going to stay back and answer all your questions, folks, inshallah. No rush. It's just a clarification or question. I saw a hand in the back. No? I'm seeing hands for no reason. All right. So no standing, folks. Is that clear? No standing? All right. So I explained this. If you cannot sit down, then lie down. Okay? Lie down on the bed. Let's say this is your nice bed, right? You lie down. And this is the qibla, right? I'm not going to lie down. I'm just showing you, okay? I'm just explaining. This is your bed. Just can you see it, right? So you lie down in a way that your head is actually facing the qibla straight and your legs are facing the qibla as well. Okay, so that's the qibla. You're facing the qibla. If you cannot do it, then you turn your bed, right? This might get difficult at times, or you might change your positions on the bed itself, and then you can ideally face the right side. Okay, so your head is here, facing the right side. If not, then flip it down and face the left side. Does that make sense? If you cannot pray with, so when you're lying down, you're praying with your hands, hand gestures, right? Okay, excellent. There is a difference of opinion if you cannot even pray with your hand gestures. Somebody gets paralyzed or something, right? Or just cannot move. According to the Hanafi fiqh, the person is not supposed to pray salah, okay? The person is not supposed to pray salah. You can't pray salah with your eyes in the Hanafi fiqh. The Shafis and the others actually allow it. Traveling, yes.
So if your bed is like not facing the qibla, do you turn your whole body? Or like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
Do I lean on my side?
No, you just face your head towards
Oh,
qibla.
okay.
Okay, traveling, guys, traveling. I got my Tesla up there, you know, I wanted to put it up there for the. Okay, plane, flying, mashallah, I love traveling, so put it up there. But this is an important slide, because some of the students might be traveling from different places to come to university, right? So this is important. If your intention, and this is important, guys, intention, meaning this is what you intend on doing, is to travel to a place that is more than 77 kilometers, according to the Hanafi fiqh, and according to the rest of the schools, 88 kilometers, okay? So stick to one, whichever school you follow, okay? If it's more than 77 kilometers, and for more than 15 days, according to Hanafi fiqh, and according to other schools, 3 days, Shafi'is. Is it 3 days in Shafi fiqh, or because I couldn't find that information?
3 days, okay, moment. It says 3 days.
3 days? Well, perfect, I got it right then, alhamdulillah. Alright, takbir! Alright, so 77 kilometers plus the intention is to,
Is it less or
actually it should be less. Jazakallah khair.
Less.
Jazakallah khair, less. If the intention is, guys, fix this, inshallah, when the size is shared, please make sure it's less. If the intention is to travel for more than 77 kilometers, guys, I worked on all these slides last night to be 5 hours, and please, cut me some slack. Okay, less than 15 days, then the moment you leave the precinct boundary of your city, you will shorten your prayer. So I got some Google Maps goes, I got some sweet shots here, perfect. You're like, I live in Hamilton, but I want to go to Montreal for the weekend, do some halal stuff there, not some halal stuff, but halal stuff, we'll go to Montreal, we'll drive there. So now, the distance to Montreal, you want to check out the masjid, right? Come on, what you looking at? Right? So the distance to Montreal from Hamilton is 608 kilometers. Is that more than 77 kilometers? Is that more than 88 kilometers? So what are you supposed to do? Yeah, we'll talk about that. But you will become a traveler, meaning Islamically, Sha'an, a traveler, the moment you leave the precincts of Hamilton from any direction. So let's say over here, the moment you cross this, you enter Burlington, khalas, you will start shortening your salah. As long as you're in Hamilton, you will pray full salah. Does that make sense?
Even if it's more than 77 of the
Even if the intention is 77, you have to leave the boundaries of your city first.
But the distance is calculated from your home or the edge of the city.
So there's a difference of opinion on that one. Generally, what I do, I just put in Google Maps, or wherever I am, put in destination and see. I think only in one case it ended up being exactly 77 kilometers. Right? Generally, it's more, so you can get an idea, right? Yeah, but generally, it's from the place where you are. Generally speaking, yes.
So it's like, what if, like, yeah, you technically left the city, but like the houses, like they never disconnected, just like buildings, like it's like just you know, so it's
In Canada, it's easy, man. Just look at the boundaries. They have those demarcations. You know exactly where the city ends. Just follow that. Forget about the houses and stuff. Yeah.
So let's see, like,
Question, clarification. And ask the question. I'm sorry.
Let's say I live in Hamilton, the school, but like I live in like Brampton or something. And it's 80 kilometers away. Is that considered traveling? I don't know.
Yeah.
So let's say I'm going to just for the weekend. So then I'm short my prayer because I weekend.
If your home is Brampton and you're visiting Hamilton, yes, for less than 15 days, yes. When I studied in the madrasa, I studied it for 5 years. I was 5 years boarding, right? 2 years in Mississauga, 5 years in madrasa. I was a musafir for 5 years because I would leave the city every single weekend, right, to go to Ottawa. So I was a musafir all the time. So you'll shorten your prayer until you return back and enter the precinct of the city. So once you're coming back, even if you're here and so close to the city, right, maybe 500 meters away from the city, you will still pray Qasr Salah. You will still shorten your Salah because you're still a traveler. Until you enter the city, you are considered a traveler. So what's going to happen? You will shorten your prayer and until that point. And if you intend on staying at a place for 15 days, you will pray full regular prayers in that traveling city. So, going back to this slide, if let's say you intend on staying for less than 15 days, okay, then from the moment you leave Hamilton until you come back, you will shorten your salah, correct? But if you intend on staying for 15 days or more, then you will shorten your salah until you reach that city and that destination. So in that city, you will pray full salah, but until that point you will?
For
the journey, while you're in transit, right? You will actually shorten your salah, yes.
So clarification on this, we had this discussion one time and somebody was mentioning that a distance may differ based off of if you have to, let's say, go up a mountain, it might add kilometers to a distance.
Let's just look at the actual distance that you will travel.
That's all you look at, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so the Fajr, 2 remains 2. Basically, every salah turns into half, right? So there's no half of 2. There's the 1 rak'ah. Okay, I'm not going to say it. I was going to say something. But anyways. Dhuhr, 4 becomes 2. Asr, 4 becomes 2. Maghrib, 3. Can half it. So remains 3. Isha becomes 4. Keep in mind, sunnahs and nafil don't change. So the 4 rak'ah sunnahs will remain 4 rak'ah sunnahs. They do not change. However, when traveling, emphasized sunnahs become non-emphasized, which means you can choose to leave them. Now, there are narrations that actually mention that the Messenger of Allah ﷺ did not pray sunnahs, and there are narrations that mention that he actually prayed sunnahs. So how do you reconcile between the two apparently contradictory ahadith, right? Which is, one mentioned that, a few mentioned that he actually prayed sunnahs while traveling, the other mentions that he didn't. The answer to tatbiq, to reconcile is very simple and easy, and that is when he was actually traveling the journey, right? While you're in transit, he wouldn't pray the sunnahs. But while he was in that place, he would actually pray the sunnahs. Okay? When he would be in that state, yes.
What if I'm like constantly going back between two cities? Like I'm in one, sleep one night, go back to the other, sleep one night, and then I go back.
Yeah, so
am I traveling? What if
you're always traveling.
Okay.
You're always traveling.
So in both places, am I praying is shortened?
Yeah.
Okay.
But depends. In your own home, whichever is your what's called watan asli, right? Like your actual home or residence, that will be considered your actual home. So whenever you go back to that city, you will pray full salah. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So if you're going back and forth between your home city, hometown, and any other city, once you're in your hometown, then you will pray full salah. But once you leave, you will shorten your salah. Even if you go back to that place for the next 50 years of your life.
Okay, and I don't know if this is considered question or clarification, but if I'm like,
If it's a question, I'll point you.
I'm not sure. Okay, but I'm in Mississauga, and then I have to. That's the question. Okay.
Yes, clarification.